The Dark Knight of Gotham, detective without peer, warrior without mercy. What brings you to my tower after all these years? Surely Gotham's criminals keep you sufficiently occupied without traveling mountain passes seeking old wizards' company.
Gandalf, your intelligence network rivals my own. I've needed to consult with you for months, but timing never aligned. Gotham demanded constant attention. Finally managed to escape for this conversation. How much do you know about my current situation? I'm guessing more than average person would realize about my activities beyond public knowledge.
I know you've faced threats escalating beyond typical criminal enterprise. I know you've suffered losses that shaped your methods recently. I know darkness deepens in your city beyond normal crime statistics. But I suspect you didn't travel here discussing general situation. Something specific troubles you enough to abandon Gotham temporarily. What enemy brought you seeking Wizards' counsel instead of handling matters alone?
Kent Nelson, called Dr. Fate. He claims omniscience through merging with Nabu, ancient magical entity. He's orchestrated deaths across Gotham, justifying collateral damage through destiny requirement. Every investigation hits wall, because he apparently knows my moves before execution. Standard methods fail against someone claiming absolute foresight. I need magical perspective on how to counter opponent operating beyond detective methodology.
By the Valar, you speak of Nabu awakening. This concerns me greatly. Ancient entity claiming mastery over fate itself represents threat far exceeding Gotham's typical criminal element. But detective, tell me honestly, how certain are you that fate possesses genuine precognition? Some beings manipulate events skillfully and simply claim they foresaw outcomes. Appearance of omniscience proves nothing without genuine verification.
He's demonstrated knowledge of my contingencies before implementing them. He's prevented crimes by positioning himself exactly where I needed to be. He's quoted my internal thoughts, proving impossible without genuine insight. That level of accuracy suggests authentic precognition rather than elaborate manipulation. But you're right questioning assumptions. That's why I'm here.
Nabu is not being to trifle with carelessly, young detective. If truly awakened and cooperative with Kent Nelson, you face opponent operating beyond mortal limitations. But ancient entities have weaknesses mortals often overlook. Precognition itself can become vulnerability if properly understood. Tell me, have you considered that omniscience might burden creates logical weight? Most minds cannot sustain without fracturing. Seeing minds
I hadn't considered that angle. Most investigations focus on exploiting power, rather than understanding psychological cost. If Dr. Fate's omniscience burdens him, creates psychological pressure, that's vulnerability I could leverage. But how do I approach sorcerer who sees my approach before first step? Every countermeasure feels futile against someone claiming perfect foresight of my intentions.
Perfect foresight requires processing infinite possibilities simultaneously. Even ancient minds experience limitations and boundaries. What if you introduce enough variables that omniscience becomes burden rather than advantage? Flood his perception with so many potential futures that distinguishing genuine danger from false possibilities overwhelms his consciousness. Makes certainty impossible through sheer complexity and number of competing outcomes.
Let's get Robin's input.
Dr. Fate doesn't just see futures. He experiences every possible outcome, emotionally. That's torture, on psychological level most beings can't tolerate. If we create a scenario where multiple legitimate futures exist with genuinely unpredictable outcomes, he experiences multiple might force him toward action just too simultaneously. That psychological weight, based on emotional exhaustion, creates mistakes. Calculation wouldn't generate naturally.
The boy speaks wisdom beyond his years. Making omniscient being desperate through emotional overload is unexpectedly effective approach. But implementing such strategy requires careful choreography and planning. You cannot simply create chaos hoping he breaks under weight. No, you must create specific uncertainty that matters psychologically to him personally. What does Kent Nelson fear beyond his sorcerous power? What outcome haunts him despite believing he controls all futures?
I've been researching his history extensively. Before merging with Nabu, Kent Nelson was archaeologist discovering Nabu's helm. He couldn't save his wife from dying in an accident he witnessed helplessly. That failure haunts him deeply. He gained Nabu's power partly to prevent similar tragedies through controlling destiny completely. If I create scenario where saving someone requires accepting outcome he cannot predict, that activates his core trauma and forces action.
He's built entire philosophy around preventing his wife's death, repeating endlessly, presenting situation where choice means accepting uncertainty would shatter his psychological foundation completely. But there's danger. Desperate sorcerer might lash out violently, rather than accept uncertainty and helplessness peacefully.
Master Bruce, Gandalf, I must voice concern about this operation's psychological torture implications. You're deliberately targeting Sorcerer's deepest grief and trauma to force breakdown. While strategically sound, this raises ethical questions about methods you're employing. Are we becoming tyrants ourselves through psychological manipulation of his vulnerabilities? What distinguishes your approach from his claimed justification through destiny?
Alfred makes valid point requiring consideration. I've wrestled with that exact question repeatedly, but Dr. Fate is actively harming innocents justified through his worldview. I'm stopping that harm using methods targeting his psychology rather than direct violence. It's not comfortable or clean, but it's less destructive than alternatives. If this forces him toward genuine helplessness and humility, maybe he stops playing God with other people's lives completely.
Your butler possesses moral clarity I respect deeply, Detective. The question of whether we become monsters fighting monsters troubles wise hearts constantly. But consider this. Offering Fate choice between accepting limitation or experiencing psychological collapse is more merciful than simply destroying him outright. He might recognize after breaking that omniscience burdens rather than bless his existence. He might choose limitation willingly afterward. Proceed with your plan. I'll provide magical support ensuring psychological pressure doesn't kill him outright during confrontation.